In the mid to late 1980s, the Soviet Union was going through an economic stagnation. An overwhelming amount of money and resources was spent in the military, leaving the rest of the Soviet Union's economy little room to grow. The 1970s and early 1980s was a time associated with rampant corruption and the desire to not alter the status quo. With the two previous General Secretaries of the Communist Party dying in office in short terms, and the nation continuing to fall, the Soviet Union turned to a younger leader, Mikhail Gorbachev, in 1985. Gorbachev, wanting rapid reform, introduced Perestroika in 1986. Perestroika, a Russian word meaning restructuring, completely shifted the way the Soviet Union had been operating in the past. Under Perestroika, Gorbachev focused on increasing labor productivity, ending corruption, democratization, and the policy that opened the floodgates, leading to the eventual collapse of the Soviet Union, Glasnost. Glasnost, a word meaning openness, was Gorbachev's way of empowering Soviet citizens to help the government get the Soviet Union back on track. One example of this process could be citizens allowed to criticize low-ranking officials for inefficiency, corruption, and drunkenness. This would help leadership spot these people who bore responsibility for the country's failures. Glasnost, as Gorbachev originally intended, would give citizens the ability to give constructive criticism on how to improve the communist government and require the person willing to speak up to operate within the system. In actuality, however, Glasnost was a spark that brought the Soviet Union down. Under Glasnost, there was an explosion of ideas within the Soviet Union. People began openly criticizing not just the atrocities that occurred throughout the country's history, like the deportations, purges, terror, and forcible collectivization of agriculture that were rampant under Stalin, but the system of socialism itself. People even began describing Soviet communism as totalitarianism, which led to a new, wide range of political orientations and the free marketplace of ideas that never existed in the Soviet Union before. The new openness in the Soviet Union even led ethnic minorities to demand equal treatment. In the summer of 1987, Crimean Tatars, who were forcibly removed from their home in Crimea to Central Asia in 1944, protested for weeks in Moscow. The Tatars didn't end up getting what they wanted, but what was remarkable was that the demonstration had been allowed for quite some time, and none of the demonstrators had been charged with a felony and sent to Siberia. Similar responses occurred throughout the Soviet Union and in the Baltic states where there were large protests, but Moscow waited a while to do anything. When they did intervene, little was done, contrary to the Soviet Union's notorious authoritative past. Under Glasnost, Gorbachev and the Soviet Union's tight grip on society loosened to the point where the communist government could no longer assert itself and keep order like it once could. The people in the Soviet Union demanded reforms while others wanted freedom, and Glasnost only accelerated the nation's collapse.